So the Tories are still very much trying to deal with the fallout of their, well, what is being dubbed the Tories' version of Black Friday. They were absolutely annihilated, losing over 1,000 seats. That is not good. And Rishi Sunak has gone from a already very, very weak prime minister to an incredibly more weak prime minister. And what's even more funny, there was this whole drama that apparently had been happening for a couple of weeks beforehand, where Liz Truss had apparently been trying to sideline Penny Mordaunt at the coronation. So there's been this whole hilarious fallout between Liz Truss and Penny Mordaunt. But the other interesting thing, as we've always said, even though Liz Truss should be banished forever to whatever counts for, like, I don't know, Tory jail when you do something wrong. She has not. Why? Because in the party, as we always explain, there is this hardcore, really right-wing libertarian ethos, and she has become sort of the queen of this libertarian ethos. So as much as she completely and absolutely failed, she unfortunately still has a lot of power to retain. But that's certainly a topic, I think, for another time. But today, after the coronation, we're going to try and see probably more coping and seething about, oh no, this disaster, that maybe it wasn't that bad. And one of the narratives that they are trying to spin at the moment was the only reason that we lost so big, like the only reason this loss was so bad, was because of national issues. Had absolutely nothing to do with how bad we were in dealing with, like, local issues, or how bad Tories are on local councils. So that's the narrative that they are trying to spin, that it was just national issues that overtook local issues, that this was what voters cared about. It wasn't the fact, the local Tories in many cases have been just as bad as national. It was just national issues got in the way, and that was the real downfall. However, we're going to go over this story in the eye, because this completely torpedoes this narrative. Because here you have voters in Windsor who came out unanimously and elected the Lib Dems to completely give them control of the council and boot out the Tory councillors, because they were just classed, as one person put it, absolutely useless. So let's go diving into this, because, like I say, it's a narrative that they are trying to spin, that it was just national issues that there were problem, nothing wrong at a local level at all. We weren't to blame for anything. Not really, when you look at the situation on the ground. So let's go cracking on into this. But before we do that, though, please do remember to click on the like, share, and subscribe button. But of course, down below, there are links to my Patreon page, the one notification link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can buy me coffee. There is the YouTube thank you button, and of course, the Pony Club down below as well. So let's go cracking on into the eye to have a look at this. The title of "They're Useless. Voters in Windsor say Tory hang on. There we are. There we are. That's better. So, voters in Windsor say actually, they are useless. Voters in Windsor say Tory incompetence led to sweeping defeat. The Conservatives' incompetence at a national level and disregard of voters locally saw the party suffer a sweeping defeat in Windsor and Maidenhead, residents have said. The Tories, who have led the council in Berkshire Borough for over 16 years, were booted out by the Liberal Democrats in what became a victorious set of local elections for the party. Ed Daly's party had set its sights on the council and campaigned hard in Windsor and Eton, but was not expecting to win outright control. Local frustration over the handling of council finances, leading it to being in more than £200 million in debt, and what was perceived as poor investment in poor services, led to voters turning away from the Tories. Are we surprised? Are we shocked? No, we're not. Um, this is something that very often doesn't get a lot of national attention. That when you look at a lot of councils, most of the Tory ones are very, very in poor financial straits. And I know everyone looks at what's the Labour one down in London that's went bankrupt recently. Everyone points at that and say, "Oh my God, look how bad that is." But in reality, there are a ton of Tory councils who have doubled down on austerity, who relied on EU budgets and the funding that they could get from the EU in order to sort of shore up their budgets. Well, now that's gone, they're increasingly becoming in ever more financial trouble. And what this is something that doesn't get reported on a national level. But there you go. So Neil Foster, a Conservative supporter from Eton, told the Eye that the significant Tory losses were because of the failings of the government on a national level that had turned away lifelong supporters. Mr. Foster, the 57-year-old teacher, said it was expected. A lot of us voted Conservative because we have always done so historically, but it is hard to vote for the current politicians at the top of the party. I'm not sure the local Conservatives have done a bad job, but the national politicians are incompetent. He said the Lib Dems were considered to be the second best option to the Conservatives by the residents and joked that they are Tory-light, adding the Lib Dems share similar values as the Conservatives, but on a national level, they have rarely had the chance to prove that they are as incompetent as everyone else. Helga Cairncross, a Maidenhead resident who voted Lib Dem in the elections, said that she was delighted the party had sailed to victory and said the local Tories deserved to lose because they had communicated badly with residents and had not invested in the town. Two very different takes there. Very different takes. Again, as we said at the beginning, it's all about this trying to set this line that they're trying to come up with, that it wasn't local Tories that were to blame, it was the national. But when we've heard from the Labour, the Lib Dem councillors, the Green councillors, there's a lot more stories going on than have really been reported. So it's not just the national Tories that were the problem. Miss Cairncross, who was originally from Germany and had lived in the area since 1975, said that the Tory councillors are ridiculous. I gave them 1 out of 10, she said. We had a Conservative council which has been useless. They are never available if you ring them. They never speak to the residents. They are absolutely useless. There is no communication between them and us, the public. They do not seem to exist. The town centre is empty. Nobody wants to go there because they don't invest in businesses there and in the high street. I will be celebrating tomorrow with a glass of bubbly, not the coronation, but winning the election. Miss Cairncross, of 70, who added that the Conservatives do not deserve to be in power because of the countless sleaze scandals involving their politicians in recent years. Claire Hillsman, a 63-year-old Windsor resident who did not vote and has no allegiance to any political party, said that she was stunned by the Lib Dems' victory, adding, "This is amazing. I am shocked. Good on them." She welcomed the party taking the wards because she believes the Conservatives are ruining the country. Somebody else has to have a try. What is happening to the country is appalling. When I was 23, I bought a flat. My son, who is 40, can't even afford to buy anywhere. But Labour supporter Warwick Shaw said he believed although the Lib Dems won the wards, they would lose out in a general election to the Conservatives because Rishi Sunak was a great leader. That's debatable. That's very debatable. That's incredibly debatable. He was absolutely a weak leader. He is going to get absolutely shredded. If you thought there were rebellions before, oh boy, are there going to be rebellions now? So Mr. Shaw, who is a 70-year-old construction firm manager, said, I'm not surprised in the midterm government elections. It always reflects what is happening with the present government. The Conservatives always do badly in local elections, but Rishi Sunak is a brilliant leader and he will only do good things for the country. Did that guy pretend to be a Labour supporter? This one. Rishi Sunak, by no measurement, is a good leader. He says he'll do one thing, doesn't do it, and then if anyone gives any sort of pushback, he immediately just flops and gives in. And we have seen that time after time after time after time. The only reason that he appears to be a good leader is because all the Tories know that if they start acting up again, they will end up in a general election, one which they will ultimately lose. These local elections have certainly proved that not only at the next general election is there going to be a lot potentially of tactical voting going on, but the Tories will lose big. So the idea he's a brilliant leader, that's very much debatable. So we oppose the inappropriate developments which would either ruin the community assets or where there were serious environmental concerns, they said. We are open to house building where reasonable and sustainable. Dio Tasuni, the new elected Liberal Democrat councillor in Eton and Castle ward, which covers Windsor Castle, is also the parliamentary candidate for Windsor. The current Tory MP, Adam Arlyle, was also declared bankrupt last year and announced he will not stand for re-election. Mr. Tarzi told the Eye he was surprised by the level of success the Lib Dems had in the area and said the results suggested the party could be on course for more success in next year's general election. And bear in mind, we've seen this from the Greens where they've had good local election results and said, oh, we'll go and we'll win more MPs, but they've never been able to do that. Meanwhile, not only have the Liberal Democrats used local elections as a bellwether to show where they should focus funding for MPs, but on doing that, and the local elections have then gone on to win by-election after by-election in these Tory blue wall seats. They are really doing well. And I think they will have a very good general election. I think they will have a very good general election because all the seats they are looking at taking are not Labour ones, but Tory ones. And this could cause massive upset because one of these seats is Maidenhead. Who's the MP for Maidenhead? That's Theresa May. So Theresa May could lose her seat, or it will be an incredibly fierce battle. That's for sure. So you went on to say this. I said it was not impossible that we could just take it was not impossible that we could just take control of the council, but I also thought it was unlikely. I am taken aback by the results. I can't believe the swing to us, he said. I've been asked by other people if it's on a national or just a local thing, but it's a bit of both. We've had a lot of people we would call soft conservatives, and they believe broadly in fairness and social wealth. They want a pragmatic government at local and national level that gets on with the job. That's not what they see in the Conservatives now. The few councillors we already had in both in Windsor and Maidenhead have really made a name for themselves listening to local people. So, as we said, one of the big reasons why I'm sort of doing this, because the Conservatives are desperate to say, it's nothing to do with local, it's all national. It's national's fault. You know, it's Rishi Sunak's fault. Again, like I say, if Rishi Sunak was such a good leader, why then did they have such an absolutely awful day? He said that these results do suggest the Lib Dems could be on course to make gains in the general election in both Windsor and neighbouring Maidenhead, which is the seat of the former Prime Minister Theresa May. If you had asked me yesterday if we could win the parliamentary seat of Windsor, I would have said it's not possible. But it is now, but it is a stretch. But now I think that chance has increased, he said. Theresa May still has a good personal following. But if you look at the result in Maidenhead today, that shows how very much a winnable seat is. And in many ways, they've got more potential than we do here. So she's by no means safe at the next general election. That is one to watch. That's very true, because the Lib Dems have proved they can turn by-election results into MP wins. So it is very, very careful, and certainly a seat we should be watching at a potential next general election. So the leader of the Liberal Democrats, Sir Ed Daley, described the win as the jewel in the crown of a very successful set of local elections for the Liberal Democrats. We have proven that we can beat the Conservatives right in their former heartlands. He said, people are furious with how the Conservative government has mismanaged the economy, failed our NHS, and allowed water companies to pump sewage into our rivers, many of them who will never vote Conservatives again. And that's really the story I think we're seeing. I think we are seeing the complete incompetence of the Tory party on show, not just at a national level, but at a local level as well. And I think the more people have come to realize this, as we said yesterday, this whole incompetence at a national level has really highlighted people's or at least highlighted the complete incompetence and the uselessness of many of these local Conservative councillors, because many of people have hoped, well, they can't be, if they're that bad at a national level, they can't be that bad at a local level, surely. But oh no, they are. They are completely. And we are seeing time and time again this battle take place in the Tory party of this this NIMBYism, not in my backyard. That yes, we want to build houses, we want to build all this green stuff, but just not in my backyard, please. And it is something that is affecting the party. It is massively affecting the party. And we need to, I think, really, really look at how sort of we combat this as well, because I don't think it's not just a sort of Conservative problem. I think it does certainly go into a potential sort of Labour problem, and even a Lib Dem one, because the Lib Dems have always had this good strategy where they can sort of pivot between a rural and a city or a town. But I think increasingly that's going to be a big problem, and it does become, I think, very a generational one, because most people who are of that persuasion, the not in my backyard or not in my back garden, type persuasion, tend to be a very much older end. So this is very much a generational thing. We'll see how important that becomes at the next general election. That could be a big part. That could be a very big part in a lot of these key battlegrounds. How much of this comes into play, and then what happens next afterwards? It's the general election results, or at least the general election. It is shaping up already to be very, very interesting, because we've got tactical voting on play. Because it seems like this time, hopefully now, by the general election, they'll have this cracked. It certainly does seem like that. You've got Rishi Sunak being absolutely an incompetently weak leader. You've got the whole Conservative Party tearing itself to pieces, having nothing to run on. There's a load of questions that are going to be played into the next general election. A load of them. And none of them work in the Tories' favour. But we'll see what happens when it comes to the general election, of course. So, as always, thank you very much for watching. And of course, as always, we'll see you all next time.